Garrett Avery is our resilience guy, and he will tell you what resilience is.
Morning, everyone. So we're going to talk a little bit about resilience. And as I'm sure many of you are aware, resilience means a lot of things to a lot of people. So I wanted to first start with what it means to us, what it means to ULI generally. So when we say resilience, we're talking about a community's ability to prepare and plan, adapt, and recover from unintended shocks and stresses or adverse effects, right? Part of the ULI resilience program has been developed over a series of 14 panels exactly like this one, all around the country, but 2 of them have already been in Louisiana, not counting this one. There's one in Lafayette, one in St. Tammany Parish. So there is a focus not only by ULI, but resilience practitioners around the country on Louisiana. So what are the 10 steps to building resilience? And I think what we'll find is that we go through each one of these. Not only has our study hit on each one of these 10 points, but it's something I think everyone can relate to along the way. So the first step for building resilience is understanding vulnerabilities. And that's not only flood, it's also social vulnerabilities, it's also economic vulnerabilities. Together, we're talking about system vulnerabilities. And if there's an unexpected event, all of those systems need to come together to recover quickly. So we need to understand where they are and what needs to be shored up. One of the examples in the image I'm showing here is the NOAA projection recently released, and you can actually go home and look at this yourselves on the NOAA Sea Change Viewer. This is 30 years from now. The highest possible projection is that there could be 3 feet of relative change. And I chose relative change because it actually does take into account the fact that in some areas land is growing, which is a phenomenon we know is true here, but in other parts it's sinking. So that relative change takes both those things into account. But at the worst case scenario, we're talking potentially 3 feet. So that means that action is going to be needed going forward. The second is strengthen job and housing opportunities, and we're going to get into that a little bit more specifically. But without those safe quarters, both economically, socially, and when you go home at night, it's really difficult to recover in the event of a disaster. Promoting equities is the third, and that means having everyone buy into projects in the community, to ideas that move forward, and actually having some stake in the outcome. 4 is leveraging community assets, and I don't need to tell you guys this. You have some amazing assets that are already here. You're using them now, but they're going to be useful again in the future. We're showing Lafayette Park, Lawrence Park and Seawall in Berwick, but community assets are also you all, the people themselves. This is one of my favorite pictures, only because it illustrates the point, but number 5 is redefining how and where you build. This area has done an amazing job of creating a levee and pump system that protects a substantial amount of land. If FEMA certification is achieved, Morgan City and Berwick will be the only 2 in Southwest Louisiana that actually have 100-year flood protection, and that's pretty amazing and pretty unique, and that's something that can be marketed. We need to keep moving, though. Build the business case. Number 6, why would companies locate here if there isn't some assurance that the systems are working and they're safe to move here and their businesses won't be disrupted, their employees be sure to get to work every day, and systems are working to support them. This is another of my favorite. Accurately price the cost of inaction. This is Hurricane Sandy, and although I failed to introduce myself when I first stood up here, I'm actually leading Hurricane Sandy resilience work in New York as a landscape architect. My true favorite, though, as a landscape architect is number 8, is designing with natural systems. And again, I don't need to tell you any of this, but you guys live in and amongst some of the most amazing natural systems in the United States. They are truly incredible. They're being looked to all around the country as examples of how change in shoreline, change in relationships to water are playing out. And they're playing out in different ways all over the state, which is one of the most important things to remember. We need to rely on some of the natural systems, and that means either designing with nature, in the case of green infrastructure, or leaving it alone sometimes. Preserving natural area is the most cost-effective. It's already there, and it's doing its work. 9 is another important part. Whenever you do spend money on infrastructure and improvements, you have to make sure that every dollar you spend is returning $2 or $3 or $10 of benefit. So what that means is that if you are building flood protection, as one example, it should also speak to public health and wellness. It should also provide recreation. It should also provide community revitalization. And then finally, harnessing innovation and technology. And Cliff mentioned it, I've mentioned it, but because of where you're situated, because of the attention on Louisiana, you have an amazing opportunity to be a living natural laboratory for research and development in the resilience field. And one of our recommendations is going to be to partner with some of the local and regional academic institutions and some of the amazing fabricators and innovators that are here and have been here for generations, and actually start developing technology that the rest of the country and potentially the world can use to adapt to a changing environment. With that, I'd like to welcome David up to talk about market opportunity.